We're back with episode 27 of the Women of Wrestling podcast here on ringbellsonline.com. I am Stu Allen. He is Lee Burton.
I am, and it's quite a busy month for wrestling, so it's going to get quite intensive as far as podcasts are concerned here.
Well, fingers crossed, yeah. I mean, we've got this podcast for you today. It's going to be shimmer-flavoured. I like the sound of that, shimmer-flavoured. It's going to feature Leva Bates, an oft-requested guest.
Yeah, so we are bringing her to you, and we're going to be asking her a bucket load of geek questions as well.
Yes, and we've got another podcast already recorded as well. We'll keep that under wraps for now, but that should be coming up soon as well. So we've got some stuff coming up for you. Hopefully you enjoy. Keep letting us know what you think as far as feedback is concerned. Email, Twitter, whatever way you want to do it. And while you're doing that, you might want to be wearing your Ring Bells t-shirt.
Yes, which are available now through our Facebook page, so facebook.com/ringbells, or the link is also on the website at the moment at ringbellsonline.com. Click on it. The t-shirts at the moment are the absolute cheapest that they are ever going to get.
Yes, indeed they are, and we are filthy shills, but it's only going to be that price for a short length of time. Difficult to say, but probably by the time Shimmer comes around in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be back up to their previous prices. So if you did fancy one, pick one up. Why not?
Get them now.
Yes. And as far as wrestling is concerned, before we do bring up Leva, we'll mention briefly, because there's not a lot to say at this point so far, because she's kept pretty much kept her head down as one of the pack. But women's wrestling in the UK has taken a bit more of a media front seat, because we've got a female wrestler in the Big Brother house here in the UK.
We have. She's only a rookie. She's only been wrestling for about 4 or 5 months or so, but Faye Palmer, who has wrestled on UKW TV, which is a part of one of the satellite TV channels over here, she is now part of the Big Brother house and has been garnering a bit of attention online.
Yeah, she wrestles as Darcy Steele. She is the sister of Gemma Palmer, one of our former podcast guests. And you want to go back and listen, we not only did a Women of Wrestling podcast with Gemma, but Lee, you also did a Fight Like a Girl audio interview where you talked to her and Faye briefly as well. Was that the time that Faye actually... Well, that was Faye's debut show, wasn't it?
Yes, that was Faye's first ever show in front of a paying audience.
Yeah, so, I mean... As we say, there's not a lot to talk about so far because she's mostly kept her head down. She got no nominations in the first week. I think this is the smart way to play it. I don't know if she's playing a game, so to speak, but it's smart not to get too out there in the first few weeks.
Absolutely. She, at the moment, I think, is third favourite to win. Now, that can change because it's quite a long show.
Yeah.
And things will happen and producers will start to hatchet bits apart and make things the way that they want it to be. But at the same time, third favourite after a week isn't bad going, especially having no nominations.
Yeah, and I mean, the interesting thing as well is, I mean, she's a wrestler, albeit a rookie who's had very limited experience, but, you know, regardless of what you think of that or what you think of her calling her a wrestler
or even the show,
or even the show, you have to understand that, and again, even though it's on Channel 5, which is a smaller audience than Channel 4, it's still a pretty big opportunity for Faye to make a positive impression on a lot of people, and that could result in, you know, a spike of attendance on shows that she's on when she comes out. I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I hope it does.
How long that lasts, I don't know. But if she gets over with the Channel 5 crowd, if she turns out to be somebody that people can like, then I think, you know, mainstream exposure like this, or as much mainstream as Big Brother is these days, is a pretty major thing for any wrestler. So I think, you know, if you've got any love for British wrestling at all, you better hope that Faye comes out of this with a positive public image.
I think that's pretty much all that needs to be said at the moment. I just hope that she does as well as I hope that she's going to do. I've spoken to her a few times, just having a couple of conversations. She's a lovely girl and she deserves your support. So if you are one of these people who does vote on these kind of shows, do vote to save her if she ever does get nominated for eviction. Not that that's looking very likely at the moment.
No. So there you go. One other thing we're going to mention briefly before we bring up Leva here as our guest for the show is TNA. I know WWE...
No, don't turn off yet.
I know WWE have got their big Divas angle going on with the Divas of Doom versus the models and so on, which is a pretty interesting storyline. I'm not sure that they're not fumbling it pretty badly, but the past masters at fumbling angles is TNA, and we just want to mention briefly the fact that they've been playing hot potato with their Knockouts Championship of late.
Yeah, what's been happening is that Mickie James lost the title to Winter, who in turn lost the title back to Mickie James, and who has in turn lost it back to Winter. Mickie James lost the title on 2 straight pay-per-views in the same fashion by having something spat into her eyes. So this seems to be the cool thing for TNA to be dealing with right now. But it's one of these situations where we know what's going to be happening. We know roughly what's going to happen come Bound for Glory with the Knockouts title.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking here about some spoilers and we're talking about some speculation. If you're particularly concerned about this, feel free to forward to the music when we bring up Leva. But it looks increasingly likely that Bound for Glory is going to be all about Velvet Sky winning the Knockouts Championship for the first time. There have been a few little hints dropped here and there that she's never held a title before. This is her big opportunity. So she's going to be in a multi-woman match at the pay-per-view. So
I have a problem with this.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
I have a problem with the fact that it's a multi-woman match. If the big story is supposed to be Velvet Sky winning your Knockouts title for the first time, give her a run as a singles, ahead of a singles match, getting win after win after win and building momentum, and Winter's like, damn, I don't know what I'm going to do with this girl. And then she wins the title clean at Bound for Glory, sets her up for a good run. I've just got this horrible feeling that it's going to be a multi-person match at Bound for Glory, and Velvet's going to get a lucky pin over somebody who's not Winter.
Your only problem with that idea is it's Velvet Sky.
Yeah, okay. Nobody's going to argue that Velvet's the best wrestler in the world, but she is an over character, and she's probably the most recognisable and marketable woman that TNA has maybe homegrown. So I can understand putting the title on her. The matches aren't going to be that good at all.
No.
But as far as, having a picture of her with the belt on your commercials, fine, I've got no problem with that. I will have a problem when the matches happen, but that's another story.
But as far as the hot potato situation is concerned, that means we go from Mickie James to Winter to Mickie James to Winter to Velvet Sky all in the space of a couple of months, and I'm putting money on it right now and saying it's not going to be long until that belt's back around the waist of Madison Rayne.
Explain.
She's back, everybody. If you haven't noticed, I have, because I do enjoy a bit of Madison Rayne, but she hasn't been on Impact for quite a while. She's been, basically since she lost the belt, she's been off TV, and she's back now, and she's the only knockout, as far as the storyline is concerned, who seems to be happy at the addition of Karen Jarrett as the new VP of the Knockouts, and she's the one person who's kissing up to Karen, and it's already started on Twitter. I saw that a few days ago. They're kissing up to their besties. So I reckon it's not going to be long until we got Madison Rayne back in the Queen Bee position of the Knockouts, and that's just going to be another quick change. And I don't know. Is it too much to ask that at some point somebody in TNA thinks this is who we're going to have as a champion, and they actually let them have a run?
I would like Velvet to have a run until the end of the year. If she loses it back to Madison, fine. If that's the way the storyline's going, that's no problem. But just don't rush it. Establish Velvet as a champion, get the tarnish off that belt of it being a hot potato, and then make sure that when the title change happens, it's logical, it makes sense, and the timing is right. I know I just asked a lot of TNA right there.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. It's not going to happen, is it?
No, it's not.
No. But we're not here to talk about TNA today, mostly. We're here to talk about Shimmer. Shimmer is going to be coming up in just about 2 weeks, slightly under 2 weeks, as you listen to this, in Berwyn at the Eagles Club. It's going to be a massively stacked card, as usual. I mean, Shimmer has got to the point where the amount of people booked for the show is so vast. The people from all around the world, the options are so massive now that really you can't even sit down and do some fancy booking. You can't even sit down and think, oh, well, if this person faces this person, then this person might face this person. It's just too big.
Absolutely.
But that's good, because it means we're going into this next set of tapings and we've got no idea what's going to happen.
I like that.
We really don't. I mean, we just know that we've got established champions in both divisions, and apart from that, everything and anything can happen. If you can, get yourselves to Berwyn. If you can't, get the DVDs. But please, you got to try and experience Shimmer at least one time. If you're not going this time, try and make your plans for the next set of tapings.
Yeah, they're announced as far in advance as absolutely humanly possible, so you can work your way around it.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll bring up our Shimmer guest, Leva Bates, who I think we would both agree has been one of the big stars, one of the cult heroes of the last few Shimmer tapings.
Yeah, over the last year she's been gaining a lot of popularity.
And we'll have an opportunity to talk to you about those tapings. As far as the Shimmer tapings are concerned, we will be there as well. We will bring you as much on-site coverage as we possibly can, coming up in a couple of weeks' time.
Based on dodgy Wi-Fi connections in hotels, obviously.
Indeed. So if we're not talking to you via podcast before Shimmer again, we may very well see you there. Come and say hello. But apart from that, let's bring up Leva. So we are back with the woman who describes herself on her Twitter profile as a live-action cartoon who likes to kick people. So we're keeping our guard up here. But we've got Leva Bates on the podcast. Everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, thanks for taking some time to spend with us here on the show. We're under 2 weeks away now from the Shimmer weekend, and we always like to have a Shimmer-related guest on to talk about it. And there's been little doubt in our minds, and we've been there, so we can say that from personal experience, that one of the people that's been a cult hero to many Shimmer fans for the last few tapes has been yourself. What does Shimmer represent for you as far as your career?
Honestly, it's like one of the biggest steps I've ever taken. It's opened so many doors for me, and it's the elite in women's wrestling in the United States as well as all over the world. Like, everyone from all over the world comes to participate and to enjoy watching Shimmer. It's just for me, it's the high of the high, there's so many great people to work with, to wrestle, to entertain. Like, the Shimmer fans are just some of the greatest fans I've ever come across, and it's just so much fun. But it's also really, really exhausting, but in a good way. When I get home, usually on that Monday or Tuesday, I'm just like, oh, I'm done. I got the crap beat out of me, and I've had a ridiculous amount of fun. I'm going to pass out until tomorrow.
Well,
but no, it's amazing. Shimmer, honestly, I think, opened the door for me as a wrestler and performer and entertainer more so than probably anything else I've done. Because just so many people are like, oh, wow, I saw you on Shimmer. That was really cool, because just it reaches so many people,
Worldwide, yeah.
Yeah.
And on the last set of tapings, you and Allison Danger formed ReGeneration X.
Yes, we did.
Which was a tremendous hit with everybody. And I mean, me and Lee we're both geeks. We're both Doctor Who fans. We get it. So tell everyone else about what happened to form ReGeneration X.
Well, I think it began with my first couple times at Shimmer. Allison and I would find oh wow, you're a Lost fan, because I have a huge Dharma patch on one of my gear bags, and I just think it's really funny when you fly and someone sees a huge Dharma. Lost kind of oh god, why are they bringing Lost? Well, memories of Lost while we're on a plane. But she saw that, and she's like, wow, you're a fan of Lost, and we talked about that, and we found out, oh, you're a fan of this, and you're a fan of this. So we just started talking about all sorts of TV shows, movies, all sorts of things we just had in common. And then her and I had our match against each other, and we just gelled really, really well. It was just great competition. She pushed me, to my limit, and I think I was able, to keep up with her, and it was just such a good match, and I think from there it was like, all right, so we have so much common.
Let's form a tag team.
Our wrestling styles and temperaments are so similar. Maybe we should look into this. And then she discovered Doctor Who, and then from there I'm a huge Doctor Who fan. So we would just keep tweeting and texting each other about like, oh, did you see this? Or, wow, David Tennant was looking really hot just now. Woo! Like stuff like that. So we're like, we should do something together. And like, she kind of approached me one day. She goes, what would you think about like maybe doing a tag team together? And I'm like, oh my God, yes, please. Thank you. Now. Like, yes. So, it's just our love of geek things and love of wrestling and pure competition and sportsmanship just kind of, I think, brought us together. It was just, honestly, I think the way the stars aligned, it just kind of happened.
Well, she kind of took on board the gimmick that you'd had of the cosplay of changing your look for every match. So ReGeneration X then became, for those of you who haven't seen it, this tag team who basically changed their look, changed their gimmick kind of every match.
Yeah, like mine is definitely like a cosplay thing, but mine's more of an appreciation for pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I would never want to like step on Lufisto's toes, Like I'm such a geek. Like I am 100% completely shoot geek. So like I incorporate that. Because they always say, when you're training and you're like, all right, what kind of gimmick am I going to do? They say it should be you just turned up to 11. And I'm like, all right, well, that's me being a geek, and I love costumes, and I love being silly and dressing up, just not even dressing up, just, all right, I'm going to bring this, I'm going to carry this silly little bag around or this toy around. Oh, let me grab my sonic screwdriver here and go. Like, sometimes I go to work, and if I'm wearing a Doctor Who shirt, I'll carry my sonic screwdriver with me. Just because. Why not? It goes with the outfit. Stuff like that, Or I have my psychic paper in my wallet, Why not? Like, that's just me. So, I just legit turned me up to 11. And, she's very much like that too in real life, like she's very just, again, loves, pop culture and, a lot of us are geekier than you expect. So it's just, yeah, she was like, all right, I'm just going to kind of tool my gear around whatever craziness, we decide to do. So, actually, I think this next set of, tapings, we're going to have some interesting stuff. We did the contest where fans, if you enter, we draw a name, and the name we draw, they get to pick whatever costumes they want to see us wear. So I don't want to give anything away, but I'm actually really excited with what they chose. So I'm actually in the middle of working on that. Actually, as we speak, right now.
Do you think that's why? That fans maybe connect with you so quickly, and the fact that you do sort of throw your hands up in the air and says, "Look, I'm a bit of a nerd, and I'm into this kind of stuff." Because Stu, you all agree with this. Wrestling fans sometimes quite geeky.
That is true.
I don't mean to shout it aloud a lot, but we just have to admit it to ourselves. We are quite geeky, and is it something that we can relate to you about? And is that something that you've noticed from people when they speak to you afterwards, saying, "I'm into the same kind of stuff that you are"?
Oh yeah. Like it's surprising, like how many wrestling fans read comic books, or how many wrestling fans were like one of the like a huge Joss Whedon fan, or or Doctor Who fan. You would be really surprised how many people are actually into different things like that.
I've ticked all those boxes.
I've had a lot of people like, oh wow, you made a D&D reference. That's awesome. I used to play. I'm like, really? Me too. Like, what kind of character were you? Like we sit around and talk about stuff like that. It's because with me, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, we can talk wrestling, we can talk pop culture, we can talk games, video games. anything.
All right. Well, seeing as you mentioned video games just there, we have come up with a few sort of sideline things just to ask you about as we go along. So I'm going to throw in the first one right now, seeing as you mentioned video games. Primal Rage or Killer Instinct?
I'm going to say Killer Instinct.
We'll have more of those to come, ladies and gentlemen. Stu, back to you with the wrestling.
That's it. I didn't know if we had more coming,
they'll be coming.
We'll have a lot of things. I'm just impressed that we're mentioning N64s in a podcast in 2011. That's impressive stuff.
Hey, we can bring in Dreamcast. I still have one of those.
Oh, now you really are getting geeky.
I actually have
Atari
in my house, apartment. Who am I kidding? But in my apartment, we have like a little corner of our dining room is set to like the history of video games. Someone borrowed my NES and hasn't returned it, so there's a hole for it. So whenever I get my NES back, it comes back. But I also have like a Dreamcast. We have just all the old stuff, like an original, PlayStation. I have like a little section where I have almost all of the Game Boys. I mean, granted, it's all stuff between me and my boyfriend because he's also a huge gaming nerd too. So, but like we have the original like Game Boy with like the off-white grayish color one, and then like a color in advance.
I hope
so
with the old
it's
school
like I
Game
call it
Boy.
the history of video gaming. My mom ended up, I think, giving away or selling our Atari, so I was pretty upset. So I would need to get my hands on one of those just to put it in the Hall of Fame.
The Atari hole in your Hall of Fame. Wow.
Yeah. So
of the different looks that you've had, all of the different wrestling characters that you played, is there one that stands out where you think that you either really nailed the costume or one that you just really enjoyed playing more than anyone else?
One of my, two of the most requested ones I get for, hey, we're booking you on the show, can you do this costume, is either Chun-Li or Captain America. Captain America is always, when you have, 4th of July here, Independence Day, or, Memorial Day, anytime, it's, I always get that request. Hey, can you do your Captain America costume? Okay. And then for almost any time I do convention stuff, even though I have all sorts of different costumes, I always get a request for Chun-Li. They're like, hey, can you do the Chun-Li? I think having someone from Street Fighter would be really cool for this show. Because there's a couple of shows where it's almost pretty much my gimmick's the whole show. Everyone shows up and you have a Mario, you have a Luigi, you have a Snake, you have Cobra Commander, Batman, but they always request me to come in as Chun-Li, and I'm like, well, I don't know if you need anyone to come out with Batman. I have a Robin costume, I have this, I have this, I have this. Well, that's really cool, but we want your Chun-Li. I'm like, okay, don't get me wrong, I love doing it, but I'm like, I have so much more to do.
You made an interesting point, though, because do promoters, when they book you, do they actually say, okay, we want to have you on the show, but we want you to do this specific gimmick?
Sometimes. Actually, I just got booked for something in January, and the guy, I guess, was just going through some of my pictures. He's like, can you do the Robin costume? And I'm like, if you want me to, sure. I mean, I can do something new, because I like to do new stuff. It's, oh, God, I'm shooting myself in the foot, because I love doing it, but then at times I'm like, oh, why did I do this? It's so expensive. But this new movie comes out. I want to do something based, because this movie is just now out, so it's going to be relevant. Because sometimes I'll do something, and if it's not overly, in the theaters or, talked about, people are like, what is that? And I hate that. I want people to know what I'm doing, So I try to ooh, okay. Harry Potter, blah, blah, blah is coming out. I'll pull out, the Harry Potter gimmick. Or, Thor is coming out. I'll go ahead and get the Thor costume before the movie comes out, So, stuff like that. I'll try to be relevant. But sometimes, the promoters or bookers, will go, and I guess, to one of my, pages and like, oh, we saw this picture of this costume. Can you come in that one? I'm like, sure, if that's what you want, I'll totally do it. So.
Right. Well, you mentioned Captain America and Thor there recently, and it just brings another geek question for you.
Okay.
Best and worst comic book adaptations in movies.
Okay. Best. Ooh, there's so many good ones. Like, I remember when I was little, really little, my cousin was staying with me for the summer, and he wanted to go see Batman, the original Batman, Michael Keaton. But at the time, I was way too young to go. So Mom's like, well, for some reason, I guess they reissued Peter Pan or something. So I was supposed to go see Peter Pan, and he was going to go see Batman. Well, Peter Pan's way shorter and started before Batman. So when I got done, a little podunk town in Kentucky, and they're like, well, who are you waiting on? I'm like, my cousin, he's seeing Batman. They're like, oh, honey, just go sit with him in Batman. So I'm like, sweet. It's like PG-13 or something, and I'm like nowhere near 13. Yay! So like that blew my mind. And ever since then, I don't know if it's really the best, but that for me, it was just, seeing Batman and Joker on the big screen and being so young and impressionable. I was like, oh my god, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's just, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So it just kind of always struck a chord with me,
Mm-hmm.
Being way too young and sneaking in to see it. Well, actually, I guess not really sneaking in, but you know what I mean. Yeah. I'm not old enough to see this movie, but I don't care. That's one, I guess, I love that one. But I mean, I enjoyed, like, when I was younger, I idolized Catwoman. Like, I was going to be Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I can still probably quote every single word of dialogue from that movie. Like,
Fine job.
Like, me and my best friend at the time would, like, pretend to be both Catwoman and, like, pretend play around the house and stuff. Like, that's how obsessive I was with this movie. Batman Forever, I didn't mind it. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I was like, alright, whatever. It's getting a little woo. But then Batman and Robin, I hated. But then when Nolan took over the Batman series, I thought they were really good. Like Dark Knight, wow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Batman and Robin was really bad.
So I'm consistently, like, I mean, and even when it comes to comics, I'm always reading either Marvel or Batman. Not that I don't like the other stuff, like, it's just, I'm just not the biggest Superman fan. Worst comic book movie? I own it, and it's so bad, it's kind of awesome. The original Captain America.
Wow. I remember watching that on video way back in the day.
Yeah.
Even now I remember that was rubbish at the time.
Yeah. I remember we, like, a friend in college, we were like, let's all get together and watch really bad movies. Like, sweet. So that was one of the movies I saw, and I was like, I gotta get a hold of this. So I actually found it at a comic book convention, I don't know, a few years ago, and got my hands on it, but I was like, can't even find it anywhere. You're like, I'll go online to buy this. Nope, I guess you can't find it online, huh? Unless you go to, like, eBay or, I
think they're reissuing it on DVD soon.
Really?
I think I read that, yeah, that they're doing the original one, so yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna get that then. I gotta get that.
I think there's a commentary on there as well.
So bad. But yeah, I would say that was probably the worst. Like, a lot of people hate Daredevil. I didn't mind Daredevil. Actually, I liked it. But, I mean, I think my tolerance for stuff is way, like, I tolerate stuff way more than other people do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, oh, that was wrong. And, oh, you're not supposed to look like that. I don't know. My tolerance isn't that. I'm not that bad on it's like, well, that was completely wrong, or that wasn't supposed to look that way. Like, I mean, I don't want to say I love the movie, but I don't mind it. Actually, I think I own it on DVD. I mean, look. Yeah, I do own it. I'm actually a fan of the Fantastic Four movies. Of course, I think Chris Evans. Well, I think the casting minus Jessica Alba was pretty much dead on. Like,
Jessica Alba.
Huh?
Minus Jessica Alba?
Yes. She is not what I see as Sue. Sue is more of, like, Susie Homemaker-ish looking. You know what I mean? Like,
I guess, yeah. Jessica Alba was too hot.
A girl, and, like, I don't know. I don't know. Just didn't fit right for me.
Well, I'm going to bring you back to...
I'm going to go off here.
All right, go for it.
When they get hit with radiation, all right, so they're in the space station, and they get hit with radiation in the movie. Everyone's like, oh, pain, oh, and like, oh, ow, ow. You remember that scene where it's all like slow-mo and you see their pain? Mm-hmm. Her, she's like, ah. Still worrying about looking attractive as opposed to, you just got hit with radiation, bitch. That might hurt.
She was having a Harry Met Sally moment, wasn't she?
Yeah, it was like... Wow. It was one of those, like, it was more of a, not a sex face, but it was a very, like, and I'm like, what is going on? You just got hit radiation, so.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I am now going to take the role of bringing you back to wrestling.
That's a first for this podcast.
It is. But I wanted to... Well, Leva, you mentioned that you
go off on tangents there.
That's okay. But Leva, you mentioned that you originally grew up in Kentucky. Was it were you into wrestling at the time when you were in Kentucky? And if so, did you ever realize that OVW was right there for your for the possibility of you ever wanting to learn to wrestle?
Okay, that's two different like answers. Like I didn't know I could do anything with wrestling until I moved to Florida.
That explains it.
I had no clue. Like, I didn't know there were schools. I didn't know, I got a job at Universal Studios doing different shows and stuff here, and I made a lot of friends that worked there, and of course I filmed TNA, and a couple people, were either doing, like, ring crew or just would always go, and they're like, hey, come out and watch TNA, and then they're like, hey, did you ever, since you do stunts, and you're a dancer, and you're an actor, would you ever want to wrestle? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, why don't you go to wrestling school? And I'm like, what? There's wrestling schools? And I can go to these things? And they're like, yeah, we actually have a school right here. And I'm like, what? So that blew my mind. Way late in life. But when I was younger, though, I was huge into wrestling. As you can probably tell, I was a tomboy. I owned He-Man action figures more than Barbie. The Barbies were just hand-me-down. So of course I was definitely into wrestling. Me and one of my best friends when I was growing up, his parents would take us to like live WWE events in like Evansville, Indiana, or like, cause I was on the more very western side of Kentucky. So, we're like 30 minutes away from Indiana, Illinois, and like, maybe 40 minutes away from Tennessee. So like either we go to Nashville or Evansville to see, live WWF at the time events, and then there was a lot of like, at the time I didn't really, think about it until later in life. There was actually quite a bit of like local indie shows going on at the time. Like there was one, my grandmother would watch me when my mom would work. There was one like right across from her neighborhood. So like me and my best friend would grab some money. This was a time when like you could run around, do whatever you want as a kid because, crime wasn't as bad. I lived in the middle of little town, Kentucky, so we'd grab a couple bucks, go see the show, that evening. So, like, I remember I had all sorts of pictures with, like, all the local guys, because at the time, they had Polaroids, and, me and my friend would be front row cheering them on. I remember that. That was great.
Who was your favorite wrestler growing up?
Wow. I'm not that fickle, but I changed my mind a lot. I loved Jake the Snake. The Snake thing I thought was genius and terrifying all at the same time. I even had his action figure. I had a lot of the action figures. I love the Rockers. Of course, I was a little girl, so, girls have their, oh my god, he's so dreamy. So, Shawn Michaels. And then, of course, the heartbreak of him, putting Marty through the window. But I was still like, you're still so gorgeous, I don't care. So, like, definitely him. But I mean, like, I was loving the Warrior, like, with the bright colors and, like, just the insaneness of him and running around and, like, I just thought that was awesome. I'm like, that is so crazy. It's so insane. I love it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Everyone.
I would run around and like shake things myself in the house, like, ah! But like, I mean, I loved them. When they got a little bit older, I loved Piper and Bret Hart, just a little bit older. Once I hit puberty, though, I kind of got to that point. I'm like, I can't watch wrestling. I can't watch wrestling. And though in my heart I wanted to watch wrestling, but I guess because that's not cool to watch wrestling.
Society made you stop.
There was a time where I was rebelling against Dad, and my dad loved wrestling. I was like, well, if you like it, I can't like it. But then I would like secretly watch it in the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh, this is Razor Ramon guy. He's kind of cool. I'm not supposed to like it. I'm still like secretly watching it, but I really got back into it during like the beginning of the Raw Attitude Era, like Raw / WCW feud, Monday Night Wars thing, because like a bunch of friends from school were sitting around watching it, and I'm like, you're watching wrestling? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, I used to love this. So I was like, all right, whatever. I haven't really seen it in a long time. And then I sat down, and it was like this ridiculous, like 6-man luchador craziness on WCW, and I didn't know who anyone was anymore, but like I just saw flying and flipping and insanity, and I'm like, wow, this is really freaking cool. And next thing you know, boom, I'm hosting like nitro parties and wrestling parties, and like it didn't take much to get me back in. It was just like for like 2 seconds I was like, oh, I'm a girl. I guess I'm not supposed to watch this, even though it's kind of cool. I can't watch this.
Nice.
The funny thing is, though, is that as you talk about this, you mention the age you were when Batman was on, and being a fan of the Rockers and remembering Marty Jannetty being thrown through the glass window. There's probably people who are thinking, I can't place Leva's age now. The thing is, I think a lot of people would imagine you're probably like maybe sort of early 20s, and then you say that, and you think that doesn't sort of fit right in my time frame at all.
I'm ageless. That's what I'm saying. There is no age. You can't put an age on this. I look 12, but I'm quite older.
We'll leave it at that.
That was tactfully put and tactfully answered, so yeah.
Yeah, it's honestly, I would love to tell people, but it's just one of those, it's kind of like, especially nowadays, with like, you know how trends are, well, you gotta look this way, or you gotta be this age, so if I'm just kind of come off ageless, that's cool, you know what I mean, as opposed to like, here, I'm this older, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So.
Okay, well, let's go back then to the story you were telling, where you were saying about how you were like, wow, so you can actually learn to wrestle. There's a place here that you can learn to wrestle. That was the Team 3D Academy.
Actually, I went to another school really briefly before that. It was called FXE. It was ran by a guy named AJ Gallant, and he had Matt Bentley and Devon Dudley as his trainers at the school. And then Devon and Bubba decided to do their own school, and I just went with Devon. I'm like, I'm going to go with this guy because he's done the most in the business. So, see you guys, bye. No hard feelings.
Smart move. This would have been, what, mid-2000s that you'd have been starting to get involved?
Yeah, I think it was 2006,
okay.
I believe. Because I moved to Florida 2005. So it was like end of 2005, beginning of 2006.
And the interesting thing is that even though, you started back then, and even though now you're wrestling, all over the country, and you're on DVDs that are getting shipped all over the world, you're still training at Team 3D Academy regularly.
Yeah, you're never too old to continue to learn. You know what I mean? And they've done so much in their career. Like, most of the stuff I'm taking in now is psychology, psychology of a match, storytelling.
It's not the how to do things, it's the why you're doing things.
Exactly. It's, because you can never stop learning. And, honestly, trends also change in wrestling so much. Like, this is really popular to do right now, or, you know what, we're getting out of this way, and like, now this is how things are done. Cause, it helps that, they have a really good relationship, obviously with TNA, cause they're, in TNA, but they still have good relationships with people in, WWE, so they hear like, all right, well, Vince doesn't like it when people do this anymore. Oh, okay, so that's starting to change, Okay, so here's what the current trends in wrestling are going to, or here's what's, and you can always learn, and I mean, but that's like in anything, like as an actor or a dancer, you should always strive to be better and better and better, because if you think, all right, I'm the best wrestler I can be, or I'm the best wrestler, period, then you're just putting roadblocks in your way, or you're limiting yourself, because I don't think anyone cannot learn something. You know what I mean?
You become stagnant.
Exactly. I mean, you can continuously learn, and with this school being right here, why wouldn't I take advantage of that? You know what I mean? Why wouldn't I go and just, even if I don't get in the ring, just listen to the stories. Sometimes I just tell you stories about being on the road, or like, dealing with events, or, back in, ECW when they were just getting it off the ground. There's so many stories and things they've experienced and learned from that you can just, it's really A, fascinating, and B, it's just, oh wow, okay, so I know to never do that, because that's bad. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you had to go through that, and that was bad, so I know not to do that. You know what I mean? It's learn from mistakes, learn from, things that go well, like you just there's so much you can take from them, and both have different stories as well. It was like, it's so cool, you know what I mean?
What's the average day like at Team 3D Academy? I mean, do Bubba and Devon, do they get in there and do the training, or have they got assistant trainers, or what way does it work?
Both. They're very, very hands-on in the training. The way the school opens about noon and closes about 9 in the night, sometimes 9:30, 10, depends if we go on a tangent. But yeah, it's broken down into basically 2 classes. You have the beginner class, which is people who, are learning from scratch, or there's anyone, like you learn, that's where you work on the moves, or work on protecting yourself, and, and just learn from the beginning, and then, the evening class starts about, people start getting there 4-ish, class technically starts about 5, and that's the advanced class. That's where you start, like you take the moves you've learned and you put them in a match, and then Bubba critiques you, or you do promos, or maybe he works on like, well, this is getting rusty, you need to work on fixing this, or, like stuff like that. It's the more advanced way to put it all together. We also have a personal trainer, Dan Carr. He was a guy who pretty much created / was the personal trainer for the American Gladiators, the original American Gladiators from like early 90s. So he knows what he's talking about. He trained gladiators, he trained boxers, he trained, he's trained it all. And so you always have like an hour or 2 of just like time with him. Like usually, before beginner class, before advanced class, like it starts off at, like noon or whatever, from noon to 1, or like maybe 1 to 2. He does like core and like different exercises to just really get the people stronger, more solid, not necessarily getting more jacked looking or ripped. It's to actually be a strong person so you can hold your weight, hold someone else's weight, and he does that with both the advanced class and the beginner class. So you also have that, and the school's attached to a gym. So, you know, you can like, all right, well, they're working on this. Do you mind if I go and do like an hour of cardio? Sure, you know. So it's very cool because, you know, like, all right, well, they're working on this. You know, they're working on teaching arm drags, but I can only be there during the beginner class. So I want to get some ring time in, but what I'm going to do while they're working on teaching arm drags, I'm going to go do an hour of cardio and then work with Dan. He's going to do a lot of ab work with me. And then by the time that's done, the ring will be a little bit more open for like maybe a round robin where you can get in and like roll around and work on stuff. And then it goes, fuck, I got to work, you know, stuff like that. So it's a very cool school. And, Bubba and Devon actually do get in there. Devon, he's more in the beginner class. He teaches how to do the move, how to move properly, more of like the textbook way of doing it. He's great at mat work. Like, he can get in there and he'll just like roll around and roll around and roll around. And like, oh God, you're stretching me, Devon, I can't do this anymore. And then Bubba's definitely the advanced class one. He teaches promos, he teaches mic skills, he teaches the psychology of a match, storytelling. You know, it's not about just, you know, I see what it is. It's not about the fucking moves. It's about telling a story, you know.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
So that's kind of what they do. Like, they kind of split the class of the day in half. And of course, if there's a house show or, you know, a TV taping, they have a couple of the more advanced guys who've been doing it for like 6 years, 7 years. You know, the guys that have kind of been places, you know, like, all right, well, you know, you guys wrestled all over, you know, U.S. and Puerto Rico, you know what you're doing. You know, they're very picky about who they have as like student trainers, you know what I mean? Just 'cause they want someone that won't compromise and, you know, do the opposite of what they're trying to do. So there's a couple of guys that help out with, especially most of it, the beginner class. And then if for some reason they can't be there at the advanced class, we kind of just all critique each other. Because especially some of us, like me, I've been there since, you know, pretty much, I've been with Devon since 2006, but I've been with that school since, I think, end of 2006, beginning of 2007. So, you know, I kind of haven't feeling how I know Bubba's going to react to stuff. You know, and there's a lot of other guys, like, in the class, too. They're like, oh, nope, Bubba's not going to like that. So, you know, we really work with each other when they can't be there. But they're actually there way more often than you would expect.
Sure.
And again, I went off on a tangent.
Well, it's okay, but
when I start monologuing.
No, because it leads on to a question that I thought. And is it because of your association with the Team 3D Academy that you ended up doing the Awesome Kong $25,000 challenge in TNA in 2008?
Oh yeah, I definitely believe that. I'm local. I work at Universal Studios where they film, so I legit got a call from Bubba. I was at work that day. I was doing one of the character dance shows I do, and I get a phone call like while I was doing a show, so I checked the messages. Leave it's Bubba, call me back now. Well, okay. Yeah, can you get over here right now? What? He's like, yeah, they're doing this thing with Kong, and they want you, and we had another girl at the time that was in our school. She was the one that did it first. She was the blonde. They're like, they're going to use you guys for this segment they have with the Kong. I didn't even know what the segment was until I got there. And I'm going to be doing what with what? Okay, thank you very much. Because, you know, it's the first thing I'd ever really got to do. So, oh my God, I was so scared. But then they're like, all right, we're going to pick the blonde one first. She's going to be the first night, and then you're going to be the second night. So I'm sitting there watching. The girl's name is Mimi. I'm watching Mimi get the crap beat. I was like, I gotta do this? Oh my God. But yeah, I mean, because of them, I mean, it's awesome. It's part of why, you know, you would want to choose them as your trainers, because they do. They have ends with a lot of different places. They work with TNA. They still have good relationships with people in WWE. You know, we've had a lot of people get sent to for tryouts and get signed for FCW. they have a great standing relationship with Nakamura and like, and all like New Japan and All Japan and all those guys. So it's really, I mean, you're paying for amazing training, but you're also paying for, people who know how to get you, maybe looked at. They can get you a look, but then it's your job to, like, walk through the door. You know what I mean?
Of course. As far as that Kong thing was concerned, did you know Kong before? Did you ever met her before? And did she intimidate the heck out of you first time you saw her?
I think that was, like, really the first time we ever met. If we met, it was briefly. It was very briefly, because I hadn't done Shimmer at the time yet. Like, I was still very, like, green in the business at the time. It was very... What year was that? It was like 2007? 2008? It was... I was still... I'd been doing a lot of, like, indie shows, but I hadn't been really, like, out of my realm of just Florida.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of the big things. I kind of really got my face exposed to, like, rest of the U.S., you know what I mean? So that was the first time we met. If I met her, maybe it was, like, in passing, like, while I was at a restaurant, same week as, TNA was in town, and maybe we introduced, but I'm about 90% sure that was the first time we met.
And how was the match?
Everything's blending in together. I get hit in the head a lot, so it's hard to remember stuff. But she was super, kind, and she was like, that her and the agents were like, when they were going over with like, here's what we want from the segment, and it's just like, I was petrified. A, it's my first time ever, with TNA. B, it was like, I know I'm about to get the crap beat out of me. Oh, Jesus Christ. What am I going to do? So it was a very overwhelming, great experience, but also petrifying. So, like, this next time I got to go and do TNA, I was called for a dark match. So much more relaxing. Even though it was like, this is your dark match, you're kind of getting looked at, it's somewhat of an audition. It was just so much more relaxing. Just because, A, I was more comfortable in my skin as a wrestler. B, I've already been here. I kind of know what it's like now. I know what the locker room is like. I know how they film now. I know, what I mean? I had a grasp of what I was getting into, and so much more relaxing. And I was looking at it like, you know what? I may be called back again. I may not be called back. This may be the only time I ever have to really shine in this arena. I'm going to make the best of it. And I had a blast. But I was so scared. Not even like, oh my God, I'm going to get hurt scared. It was one of those like, oh my God, I've never done anything this big before. Oh my God. It's, not in stage fright, but they always say when you perform, if you don't get nervous, then, you should always have a little bit of nerves when you perform, but I had a lot of bit of nerves when I did that performance.
Quick geek question for you. It's probably less likely since the end of season 4, but seriously, are Sheldon and Penny ever going to get it on in The Big Bang Theory?
I don't know. I'm actually, now that, because I watch almost all of it on DVDs, we're debating on if you want to watch it when it airs. I am about episode 19, 18 in season 4.
Okay, so you don't know what I'm talking about yet.
He got, his World of Warcraft character got all this stuff jacked.
Yes.
And he got it back for him. That was really funny. So, I would say, what I've seen so far, no. But, I have no idea. Like, I'm such a huge, like, Penny and Leonard fan. Like, I hate Priya. And Priya's nice, but, like, the whole time I'm watching the show going, God, I hate Priya. And her name sounds too much like a car. Her name's stupid. Priya. Such a girl. Like, I hate Priya.
Wow. As far as, and we just kind of touched on something there briefly with the Kong challenge. You said you hadn't really sort of been exposed on a major level yet as far as a wrestler. I mean, before we really sort of saw you in Sparkle as the Shimmer pre-show in November '09. There's kind of like a couple of years of your career there where it's kind of like lost in the mists of time. What were you up to during those couple of years? I mean, any early highlights of Leva Bates, and did you always have the character from day one for what you wanted to do?
Pretty much, yeah. I did a lot of stuff with FIP. At the time, FIP, and I think it was because of FIP I really got a foot in the door through Shimmer. Cause, I don't know if you know, a lot of history, but, Dave Prazak used to be part of FIP. They had the DP Associates, and there was a huge, relationship between Shimmer and Ring of Honor at the time. And then he also did a lot of commentary and stuff, so he got to see, the girls that way. I got to work Rain, and actually I was tag teaming with Rain, and we got to work Portia Perez and Daisy Hayes and do all that stuff when I was doing FIP with them. So that kind of really got I think me notice, and honestly that was really early in my career, so I think he really saw me grow. I started managing Age of the Fall through FIP, and then when they pretty much disbanded, they put me with the Dark City Fight Club. So it was a little bit out of my gimmick to be with Dark City Fight Club, but Corey Chavis, he's a huge horror movie fan, so I kind of incorporated that. I'm like, all right, okay, I can do that. I can hang with you guys. So I would come out wearing a Jason Voorhees jersey and stuff. So I was still keeping my gimmick true. You know what I mean? Just not as balls to the wall, if you know what I mean. I'm not going out with the full mask and stuff. I may have a machete in my hand or just the mask in my hand, but not wearing the mask. So I was able to keep that type of stuff going through FIP. But FIP was pretty much the biggest thing I was really doing. I was doing a lot of local Florida stuff. I was working a lot of shows in Tampa, Jacksonville, a lot of stuff in the Miami area. I was just all over Florida. And then I started branching out up north, slowly getting into Georgia, slowly getting into Alabama, slowly getting into the Carolinas. So it was one of those, it's, you just gotta get your name out, and I really credit FIP with really helping me do that, cause when I finally, Lexi Fife, who has been so awesome with me, she's kind of I look at her mama to all of us female wrestlers. She was like, you need to send your stuff to Dave Prazak for Shimmer. And I'm like, well, I hope he remembers me and stuff. She's like, he will, just send your stuff. And I think when I sent my stuff into him, I think he saw growth. Cause when he saw me, it was very early in my career, and by the time I felt ready, cause I didn't want to send my stuff too soon to Shimmer, cause I didn't want to go in and then oh, no, you're not what we're looking for, or no, you're not there yet. Cause I knew Shimmer's kind of held all the wrestlers to a higher caliber. So I really, worked before I was like, you know what, now I'm ready to send my stuff to Shimmer. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to jump in it too soon and then make that mistake. So that's kind of why there was a few years, a couple years really before I really got my name up in Shimmer. So that's why a lot of people are like, oh, she must be really green. Well, I'm not necessarily overly green. You just haven't seen me. I've been all over. I've wrestled all over, I don't know if Mexico was before Shimmer. No, it was after Shimmer. But yeah, I just kind of, it was a very slow, not slow, but very, I really wanted to make sure I was comfortable with who I was as a wrestler. You know what I mean? Before I really started branching out. Cause I think a lot of people are so quick to jump the gun. They're like, oh, ooh, okay, I've been wrestling for, 6 months. All right, I'm ready to do the big stuff. And you're like, whoa. Why don't you learn your craft first? Learn your craft. Learn what works for you and what doesn't work for you before you really try to jump on the big ship. You know what I mean? Like, because I really believe it takes at least a good year or two before you really are comfortable and, like, find your skin as a wrestler. You may be like, oh, no, I'm comfortable now, and I've been doing it for 6 months. But still, you change. You're like, okay, I used to do this type of style, but now I'm finding more of a, this style works for me, So you're really finding out who you are. I can look at, like high school, college years. You go through high school and like, oh, I'm this person, and then bam, you hit college, you're like, oh, I'm completely different now. And I think you need that growth period as a wrestler too. You need to be like, all right, I'm doing this, and then you start studying your crafts, studying wrestling, start, branching out, doing live shows, doing different type of shows, lucha shows, old school shows, like stuff like that, and you really start finding what works for you. And I don't regret taking that time to really learn who I was as a wrestler and a performer.
Speaking of changing or feeling that you've changed as a person sort of several times as you've grown, that begs the question, who actually was the best Doctor Who?
Okay. You're going to be like, oh, you're such a girl, but I'm going to say David Tennant because he's the doctor I'm going to marry.
You're such a girl.
I love him. And don't get me wrong, like, a lot of people are like, oh, Christopher Eccleston, man. I think he was great. He was great. And I remember when I started watching, I'm like, I don't want him to leave. Don't change. And then it changed. And I'm like, who is this small man that you just changed into? I don't care. I don't like this guy. And then, of course, by the second episode, when, Cassandra possesses him, I'm like, oh, he's going to be fun. I like him. So ew, don't change. I always do that, though. Every time they change, I'm like, don't change. I love you. Don't change. And then they change. I'm like, oh, I don't like you. And then usually a few episodes in, I'm like, oh, okay, you're my favorite now. And I love Matt. Matt, I think, especially if it wasn't for Matt, I would watch it. But, like, season 5, I could not get into until Vincent Van Gogh. Really? I was just like, yeah, like
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I'm like, the only thing I like about this show is Matt. I don't like the writing. I don't like the companion. She's a bitch. So I'm like, I don't like her. I don't like anything. It feels like a really crappy, like, Sci-Fi Channel show. And then, like, we get the Vincent Van Gogh episode. I'm like, heartstrings tug. Okay. But, like, Matt was the glue that kept me into season 5. Because I'm like, I think it was just because it was such an abrupt change. You know what I mean? Like, when the other changes, like, well, at least with the reboot, all right, you lose Christopher Eccleston, but you still have Rose. You still have Russell T. Davies. You still have all the people in the same world, so to speak. You know what I mean? And then when we lose Rose, guess what? We still have David Tennant. You know what I mean? Like, you have a glue that keeps people together. And then when they did from season, I call it 4.5 to 5, there was just too much of a change, and I think it was really hard for all of us who, were really diehards, at least for me, to really grasp it and to really like it. You know what I mean? Like, everything just feels weird. Like, it just feels weird. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I love David Tennant, and, like, he's my favorite, but I gotta give props to Matt, because if it wasn't for him, I don't know if I'd still be watching. You know what I mean? Like, it was just through the dire love of Doctor Who and his quirkiness, I was like, all right, I'll stick through it. I really hate this vampire episode. I'll stick through it. Okay, now this is good. You know what I mean? And now I think season 6 is awesome. So.
Just on a side note, I just wanted to just say this. I hate Rose Tyler. Join me in this.
What? You hate
Yes.
All right. We may not be able to talk much after
She's
this.
so needy. She's so... she's just... Everything about her just makes me want to just shake her and say, pull yourself together, woman.
Well,
Oh, you've made a good point. She's got no comeback.
No, I have a comeback.
Oh, no.
She is the heart. of the companions. All right, so Donna, she's the best friend, and... Oh,
I love Donna.
And Martha, she was like comedy / best friend. Martha was the unrequited love, but like Rose Tyler was the love. I don't care what you think about, River Song, we're not getting there yet. But like she was the one that was like due to her heart, and which I don't think she was needy. I don't see the neediness. Like I had a friend of mine I used to work at a comic book store with. He was like, she always so needy, and I never saw the neediness. Maybe it's because I'm a girl.
Possibly.
I get it. There's times where like, oh, we gotta save Rose or whatever, but I think there's more times you've had to save Amy Pond than you've had to save Rose. I mean, everyone's like, what did Rose do really? She brought human emotions and she made him more human. You know what I mean? She brought out like stuff that's probably repressed in him. And she has balls, and people don't really pay attention to the balls, but she's just this nobody girl, this girl who works at a store, and what is she doing? By the end of the season, she's taking the essence of the TARDIS inside of her and ending the time war. You know what I mean? Like,
but all this is trumped by the fact that when that scene where they're running towards each other and the Daleks have taken over the Earth and they're going to do the unreality bomb, and it's because of him running to her and her neediness that he gets shot by a Dalek.
No, it's not neediness. He wanted to be with her. He loved her. He loves her. It was one of those, like, when she got ripped away by, the void, like when she was sent to the other, dimension, they were ripped apart forever. And it was like, he never got to really tell her, I love you. And it was one of those, oh my God, here's our chance. There's the war. No, that's not neediness at all. That's romance.
Oh, I can see this conversation ending in a full-on fist fight at Shimmer, but there we go.
I don't know. Like, the thing is, she would stand up to a Dalek. You know what I mean? Like, who does that?
Ace did. Ace stood up to a Dalek and killed a Dalek with a baseball bat.
It's just...
This is going to go on for a long time.
Heart, and she was like, each one has the thing, like, she has heart. She was just full emotions and heart. And she's the one that I think that brought, like, an angry doctor into one that had feelings, you know what I mean? Like, I can buy that. Eccleston's doctor. He was the one that was the war-struck one, you know what I mean? Like, he's the one that had a lot of baggage. He was not really the angry doctor, because I hate it when they call him the angry doctor, but he was the one that was like, and she's the one that was able to take those gristles and, pull out the thorns, because she's a Rose.
Oh.
I love Rose. I love almost all the companions. I'm not Okay, let me go off about Amy Pond here. Amy Pond. I loathed her. Like, I hated Amy Pond at the very beginning. It was just like, alright, the kid's cute, whatever, but...
Yeah, she is.
It was just like, who are you? Why are you so concerned about being sassy and not being a real person? Like, I don't know. Maybe it's part of the writing, and maybe it was also, I believe it took her a whole season to really find her character as an actress. But she was just so... I just got flipped off for saying that.
No, I agree with you totally.
But, like, I felt like the whole time she's the sassy companion. Look at me, I'm sassy. Okay, what else are you? I'm sassy, that's all I need to be. I'm sassy. And I'm like, really? That's it? That's all you got? Oh, okay, there's your fiance you're ignoring right now. Oh, hey. I just couldn't really get behind her until towards the end of season 5. I'm like, all right, maybe she's okay. But then when season 6 comes around, I'm like, okay, so it went from hate to loathing to mild dislike. So mild dislike. I think those are really good steps. I'm going in the right direction here.
No joke, Stu and I had the same conversation about Amy yesterday.
It's true. It is true, yeah. So
really,
we're kind of with you on that one. She wasn't a likable character. She's becoming significantly more likable now. So
wow, yeah. I mean, I mean, people get really mad when I say she is the Bella of the Doctor Who universe.
That's interesting.
And she is, but unless you've read Breaking Dawn, I don't want to ruin the movie for people. So, but she is.
There you go. Let's bring it back here a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys read the book, but once you guys see the movie or read the book, then come back and I will explain everything to you. But like the girls and some guys who've read Breaking Dawn and are Doctor Who fans, they'll get the reference.
All right. Let's bring it back to wrestling for a little bit then.
What? Wrestling? What is this?
Just for a little bit. You know, we've got to at least do a little bit every so often. You've also branched out a little bit now. You've debuted in WSU as well, and I mean, what sort of are the next steps that you want to take as a performer? Where do you see yourself going in this coming next 12 months? Where do you want to get booked? Where do you want to see yourself? International.
I wanna start going. I see now, like, there's a huge trend of a lot of us going overseas, especially to Japan, in which Japan is one of my ultimate goals. That was like one of the things when I got, into wrestling, that was the goal from day one. Like, I will be in Japan. Don't know how or why, I will be in Japan. Like, well, the nerd in me wants me to be in Japan, but also, the wrestler in me wants to be in Japan too. So, like, that's the goal. I want to go international. I want to do, because I've done Mexico. I wouldn't mind going back. Would have to be different circumstances, but anyway, I want to go to Canada. I really want to go back to England, but that's just because, again, I'm a huge nerd, and I would go sightsee. And when I was 15, I got to go on this, like, our school got to do a European tour type thing where we just hit, like, 3 countries in like 10 days. It was insanity and maddening, but I want to go again. I want to go and actually take some more time and, like, all right, as opposed to legit running through a museum, I want to take time and, like, enjoy it, because, like, a lot of my heritage is English, Irish, that type of stuff. So I want to go and check that out. Like, I want to, do the wrestling there, because there's all different styles in wrestling. Like, Mexican style is way different than Canadian is different than Japanese, and Japanese different than, like, European, so I want to go international. That's my big goal. I want to see the sights and experience different styles.
Okay. One of the things you mentioned earlier on was that you were a big fan of Lost.
Yes.
As was Allison Danger, as was myself. I watched it right from the beginning right through to the end. Was the ending the right ending, or was it a massive disappointment?
I don't know what kind of ending they would have given.
I think that's the problem. They had put so many things in there and layered so many stories that to try and give everybody what they wanted in the space of one episode would have just been too much.
Yeah, I think, like I say, and I mean, I don't really know what other people will say. And again, like I said, for some reason, I guess my tolerance is way higher than other people. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked how the show closed, how it opened. I love the eye. You know what I mean? Where, like, the first thing in the scene of the show is he opens his eye, boom. You know what I mean? And then end of the show, spoiler alert, where he, it ends like that. You know what I mean? I love that. I love how it was almost like a book. And those were the two covers. I liked it. I liked the fact that, it was, though, I don't think that's what they originally wanted, because when everyone was like, oh, again, spoiler alert, so turn it off for a couple minutes if you haven't seen Lost, but, like, everyone, like, in season 2 is like, oh, they're all dead. And then they're like, no, they're not dead, they're not in purgatory, and then at the very end, you're all dead. It's like, I think it was one of those, like, oh shit, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do this. This is a nice little way. But that way, they were able to have, like, alright, you get to be reunited with this person, and honestly, with them being, in that afterlife, I think was a good way of at least getting somewhat of a happy ending people were reunited, family members, lovers, that was a good way of getting everyone back together. But and I also like how maybe this happened first season, and again, this may happen 45 years later down the road. You know what I mean? Like, time was irrelevant there, which was kind of cool. I don't know, like, I kind of wish it didn't have to end, so to see if maybe they could have had a different ending, or could have had, because the thing is, they kept on saying, no, it's not this, and then by the time they ended, it was that, you know what I mean? Like, I want to see what they initially wanted. But I liked it. I liked, again, maybe, it's a little, because, I do have girl parts in me where it's like, oh, they got reunited, yay, and stuff like that. I cried. I'm not gonna lie. So, like, I like that. I found it interesting, though, like, spoiler alert, that, like, alright, everyone was like, oh, the new Jacob's gonna be Jack. And he was actually only Jack for, like, a few moments, and it ended up being Hurley. That was what blew my mind. It was like, he had to make that sacrifice. He sacrificed himself in order for someone else to continue on. So that one I thought was very interesting. I was like, wow, I didn't see that one coming. So, okay, on spoiler alert, you can pay attention again.
I'm not sure how they work that out, but yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, just to prove that, we planned this interview right from the beginning as well, we're going to take a cue from Lost and we're going to finish where we started. Do you like that? We're going to go back and we're going to talk about the fact that if you want to see Leva Bates wrestling in just under 2 weeks' time, get your asses to Berwyn for Shimmer. It's going to be October 1st and 2nd, the Berwyn Eagles Club. Get your tickets at shimmerwrestling.com. And can you give us any idea about what you might be displaying this time as far as characters?
Go on, a hint.
Okay. One of them you've seen me do before, but now Allison gets to do it with me. So I'm not gonna tell you what, but I'm bringing back an old one, but a goodie, a really goodie. So that's a hint for you.
I don't ever want to see Alison dressed as War Machine, but there we go.
Not gonna say anything.
Or Pepper Potts.
But yeah, you've seen it before. But yeah, like, I'm really excited because there's so many different things we're doing this time. It's like, okay, comics, movies. What the hell? I know one reaction is going to be like, what the hell? WTF, what are they doing? So.
Leva's dressing as Raj.
No, that would be funny. So yeah, that's it. Shimmer in 2 weeks' time, October 1st and 2nd.
There's so many things, like we haven't even got to discuss, the new 52 and DC Universe. So much we need to discuss.
I wanted to ask you about that. I'm
playing Fable 3 still, which I'm actually focusing more time on, like... I accidentally got knocked up 2 days ago. I was pretty upset.
Yeah, there's so many questions I still have to ask. We're going to have to get you back on for another show.
Okay, definitely.
I know that we've already overshot our target, so we will wrap it up here. And for everybody.